everyone, welcome to another Bringing the Zoo to You here at Brookfield Zoo. My name is Katie. Over here we have Bill. We are both animal care specialists here at the zoo. And if you look over here, you might notice our guest star because she's kind of hard to miss. This is Christina, and she is one of our 2 female Bactrian camels. And today she's going to be participating in a very important husbandry routine, which is shedding her winter coat. So Bill's gonna go ahead and get to work while I'm talking, as you can see right now. So these guys hail from the grasslands and deserts and valleys and mountainous regions of Mongolia and China. And because of that, they've got some really cool adaptations, and they can tolerate a really wide range of temperatures. They can tolerate between -40 degrees in the winter up to 120 degrees in the summer. So that being said, these guys are super hardy animals. We don't often think of camels as being winter animals, right? Our imagination kind of puts them into hot deserts and stuff. But this specific species of camel is really well adapted to cold weather. And that's mostly in part due to this really thick coat that they grow. This coat of fur is several inches thick, and it's comprised of 2 main parts. So all this woolly stuff that you see falling to the floor here, this is the undercoat. So it's really thick and fluffy and woolly. And then there's also the guard hairs, and you can see that kind of on her back leg here. They're longer and stringier. Those will eventually come off too, but they take a little bit longer. So this shedding process starts naturally once the weather gets warmer, which it definitely has already. So they'll start naturally. Christina and our other camel will start taking it off by themselves. They'll do this by rubbing against things like trees and rocks and branches and just really anything that they can to get it off of them. And this isn't unique to camels. We see this throughout a ton of different animals. If you come to the zoo, you'll see that our bison are shedding now, our reindeer are shedding, and if you've got dogs at home, I'm sure they're shedding a lot more now too. It's all because of this hot weather. And if you look, you can see some bare spots already. This is where Christina's already started pulling it off herself. And once it's pulled off, she's nearly bald in those spots, which is super helpful to keep cool in the summer if you've got hardly any fur on you. That being said, though, we do have to be a little bit careful in winter time. As I said, this shedding is triggered by higher temperatures and possibly sweating. So if her indoor habitat gets too hot, she can actually trigger that shedding a little bit too early, which would be less than ideal because then she would be caught in the snow without a winter coat. So we keep their indoor habitat in the winter at a pretty mid-range temperature, around 57 degrees, so that they're warm enough to stay warm in the winter, but not too warm that we trigger that shedding too early. So I said that they start shedding naturally, so you might be wondering why we're doing this at all, why we're in her helping her take this fur off. And that's mainly due to the difference in habitats. Their natural habitat in Mongolia and China is a lot drier than it is here in Chicago. We get really wet summers, and so if that rain keeps falling on this unshed fur, specifically in between those humps where it's harder for them to get it off themselves, if it keeps getting wet over and over again, it's going to get matted down and tangled and gross, and it just opens the door for a lot of fungal infections and bacteria and a lot of gross stuff that would not be great for her. So we're going to come in and help speed this process along for her by taking it off. And so if you look at what Bill's doing, it's not a very complicated process. Really, he's going in with his hands and using them. I mean, it's complicated. Hey, girl. She's going to come say hi. Hi. She heard that we were talking about her.
Really?
Very cute.
Really?
She heard that she was going to be a star today, so she wanted her close up.
Oh my goodness.
So as Bill's redirecting her, you can see where a lot of this fur is coming off. It comes off in really big chunks. And in order to take it off, we use your hand as a rake to kind of pull it off. And then he's using what's called an undercoat rake there, which just really helps speed up the process. So he'll pull those big chunks of fur off, just all over her body. So some of it gets really matted and tangled, but we don't shear our camels like we shear our llamas over at Wild Encounters. We'll really just pull it off unless it's like super matted down. Sometimes in the neck it gets matted down and you'll have to use shears, but in general we do not. And that's because it can cause really irregular growth for their winter coat. So if we sheared it and it was uneven, that means their winter coat's gonna grow in uneven and just creates a lot of future problems. So we just use this method of raking and pulling their hair off. And just to be clear, this doesn't hurt her. We're not ripping her hair out or pulling it out of her. It's really loosely embedded. It's naturally shedding. So it's not painful for her in any way. And you'll notice that she is really calm throughout this, right? She's pretty tolerant. She'll wander, but she's very tolerant of what Bill's doing. And that's for a few reasons. One, she had some food earlier, so she was very happily eating while this was being taken off of her. She also has a really large bank of trust built up with Bill. He's been working with her for a long time, so they know each other very well, and that's helpful. But then the other part is that this coat is very warm and very heavy and very uncomfortable in the summertime. So this feels really nice to have that all taken off of her. So she's very tolerant of it. So this process, we're not going to finish her in these 10 minutes that we're here today. It takes place over a couple days depending on how long Christina is going to stand for it. But eventually, once it's all taken off, you'll see we've got a nice pile going here. We have more from other days. This whole total will weigh anywhere from 25 to 30, 40 pounds of hair just from one camel.
Holy
and we
cow.
have 2 camels, so we'll get upwards of 50 pounds or more of hair just from all the shedding. So that kind of shows just how thick this coat is and how helpful it is for the winter time. So if you ever see our camels just chilling out in the snow, that's because they are nice and toasty under all this hair.
Yeah. So what do you do with all the hair that you remove?
That's a great question. What do we do with all this hair? So camel fiber can be used to make clothing. It's used in textiles and wool for their wool. But here at the zoo, we'll offer this up throughout the entire zoo as enrichment. So birds can get it to use it for a nesting material. Mammals can get it to get different smells because there's lots of new fun smells in this camel hair. I don't know if it's fun. For me, it's not. For other animals, it is. So they'll get all these nice scents. They can use it as bedding. They can roll around in it. So really, it just gives another animal something new and fun and different to have.
So about how many days will it take to comb all this fur out?
It's kind of hard to say exactly how many. It really depends on how long the camels are willing to hang out. Christina might at some point today get distracted or bored or wander off. So we'll stop there. We want to make sure that this is always a positive experience for her. So it could take 2 days, it could take a whole week. It just kind of depends on timing and how tolerant she is.
Mm-hmm. And someone wants to know where Ray Ray is.
Where is Ray Ray? That's a great question. She's actually laying down over in this other yard. She's already had some grooming done. You can see she's got not much fur left on her. So she doesn't need to be out here today.
And can you remind us how often this grooming happens?
Yeah, this grooming happens annually. We start pretty much as soon as it starts getting hot out. Once they start naturally shedding, that's a great cue for us to jump in and help them out. But as soon as it starts getting into those higher temperatures, that fur starts falling off.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you do this with the other animals in the zoo that shed this much?
No, not really. It depends on the animal. For instance, our llamas, they will also need their winter coat removed, but it doesn't come off nicely in chunks like this, so we do shear them annually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So nobody's in there grooming the bison?
No, not that I know of. They might. Bill, or anyone in there grooming the bison?
No.
Nope.
No, I think they enjoy having all their limbs.
Yeah, right.
How old is Christina?
Christina here is about 15 years old. She was born in 2006 in Milwaukee, and she came over to us when she was about 1 year old.
And how's she related to Ray Ray?
She is actually Ray Ray's grandmother. So we have a grandmother-granddaughter pair out here.
So once all this hair comes off,
Mm-hmm.
I know people have sometimes commented about how our camels are naked.
They do look a little funny, right? Because we normally see camels with lots of fur. But that is just really a testament to how helpful it is to keep them cool in the summer. It's like taking a winter coat off.
So there's nothing wrong with them when they have...
There is nothing wrong with them. I know, like right now they look a little wild with all this hair hanging off of them and there's hair all over the exhibit, but this is absolutely natural.
Yes. Are the camels part of the SSP, the Species Survival Plan
They
program?
are, yes.
Okay. Let's see. I think that's sort of all we've got, and she seems to be getting a little
All of our other
tired
questions are answered.
of talking,
All right.
So,
Well, with that, Christina and Bill and I would like to thank you for joining us today for another Bringing the Zoo to You, and we hope to see you here soon at Brookfield Zoo. Bye!